I decided to do my project on BTS, so I created this website that I'm going to walk through and just go over the group, who they are as a composer, and their artistic influences. So, BTS is an acronym for Bangtan Sonyeondan, meaning Bulletproof Boy Scouts. This is also interpreted by Western media as Beyond the Scene, but that's not really the name that they adopted and what they planned it to be. So they're a South Korean boy band that debuted in 2013 under Big Hit Entertainment. Now, this septet, consisting of members Jin, Suga, J-Hope, RM, Jimin V, and Jungkook, have become a catalyst in the facilitation of Korean culture around the world. So let's get to know the members a little bit. Specifically, we're going to talk about the rap line today because they were the ones who composed most of their music early on. So, introducing the team. In 2010, South Korean producer Bang Si-hyuk set out to assemble a Korean hip-hop group that he would call the Bulletproof Boy Scouts. Now, Bang chose Bulletproof to symbolize the young talent's ability to withstand the pressures of the world. He hoped to cultivate a group that unapologetically displayed their authentic personalities and that exemplified to the youth how one can remain secure in one's identity amidst societal prejudices. With the addition of new members up until 2012, the project transformed from a ragtag crew of rappers into a hip-hop infused idol group. So BTS debuted, as I aforementioned, on June 13th of 2013, and their entrance into the music realm unfolded just a year after Psy's Gangnam Style, which became the first K-pop track that really sent the US music market into a frenzy. Now, coming from a startup company, the members used social media as a technology tool to transmit their message, eventually reaching the ears of millions around the world. So I named all the members before, but here they are. And they have stage names as well as their actual names, which is outside of the parentheses. So, the first member to join the group is RM, birth name Kim Namjoon. So RM, he was recruited early on and became the leader of the group. So prior to BTS, RM actually made his name known as the underground rapper Runch Rhonda. Now, he got away from that name, decided to go by RM, originally for Rap Monster, but he changed it to Real Me later on as he matured. And RM actually has co-composed and co-produced over 160 songs, so he's a part of the Korean Music Copyright Association, alongside member Suga, birth name Min Yoon-gi. So Suga was the second member recruited to BTS, and Suga is for shooting guard. He took like the first two syllables from both of that because that's his favorite position in basketball. He actually wanted to be a basketball player at first, but he was too short, so he decided to become a producer instead. And he actually originally joined BTS to be a producer, but later on ended up in the group's lineup because of his background in rap. So, he was also in the underground rap scene prior to BTS using the moniker Gloss, but later on, once he was a part of BTS, he decided to go by an alias name known as August D. So you might notice that August is Suga spelled backwards, and the DT comes from his hometown, Daegu Town. Now we're going to talk about one last rapper before I get into BTS's influences, and that is J-Hope. So J-Hope was actually part of a dance hagwon, which is a private dance academy in Korea. Previously, before joining BTS, he had seen one of like the flyers to join the entertainment company and to audition. So through that opportunity, he found a new opportunity, which is really cool. And he actually in 2022 became the first Korean soloist to headline Lollapalooza at Chicago, which I was actually there for. And he also has created over 137 songs and has been attributed as a writer and composer by the KOMCA, which is the Korean Music Copyright Association. Now, let's go into BTS's influences, specifically how their musical aesthetic emerged. And we can't talk about that without talking about hip-hop. So, RM. In an interview with Rolling Stone, RM expressed how his rap foundation solidified with the golden age of hip-hop, nodding to artists such as Nas and Eminem. Additionally, Drake's Thank You Letter, which was released in 2009, introduced the idea of a rapper really singing on their track alongside their rapping. And this was a concept very foreign and exciting to RM. He hadn't really been exposed to that previously. And it was this very element of the American hip-hop and rap movement that would really power BTS's first couple of records as a group. And to really add their own identity to the tracks, BTS really incorporated their own unique struggles and hardships into their dynamic lyricism. So the song I have right here, which I'm not going to play for time's sake, is called Hip Hop Lover, also Hip Hop File. And this song really just kind of showcases all of their influences. Like, they name all of the different artists that really inspired them to become rappers. And the chorus is actually the vocalist who sang, "I'll be down for your rap, I'll be down for your rhythm." So that kind of piggybacks off of what RM was saying with Drake about incorporating the melodies into the rap melodic structure. So overcoming stereotypes. With the addition of 4 vocalists to the group, which I pictured from left to right on the right-hand side, we have Jimin, Jungkook, V, and Jin. The preceding rap line, Suga, J-Hope, and RM, I don't know why I did this, found themselves in artistic turmoil. BTS faced many prejudices within their own country early on as they tried to mix hip-hop with the K-pop idol system. Now, this idol system is characterized by perfect dance routines, polished appearances, and poppy tunes that did not exactly resonate with the hip-hop community and the underground rap scene in South Korea. So here you can see on the right, we have BTS in 2013, BTS at the Grammys. But anyway, right here in the middle on the left-hand side, we have Suga on the left, J-Hope in the middle, and RM in the right. Now, according to RM, there was this idea of being a pure artist or a pure rapper, and that mixing these elements conflicted with a rapper's authenticity. So early on, the members, specifically the rappers, were mocked for compromising their hip-hop roots and for conforming to a pop atmosphere. So it was very difficult for them to kind of break out of that mold for a while. But luckily, they are bulletproof. Because the members did not let these comments stifle their creativity. They continued to create their authentic lyrics and beats in tandem with explosive choreographies and melodically driven choruses led by the vocalist. So what I believe we have right here is actually Born Singer, which this was a song that was sampled, Born Sinner from J. Cole. So we've talked about samples in our class and how those are used to drive different artistic creations. And it's very fascinating that they chose Born Sinner because it almost reflected the fact that the rappers were treated like sinners for compromising their authentic rap style by also doing this type of idol music. So Born Singer is just a beautiful song that the verses really are rewritten by the rappers, just kind of denoting their stories and telling the world what they had to go through to create their music and what it means to them to make music. They're born singers. So then the vocalists sing, "I'm a born singer." So if you would like to refer to this, I'll have the website all linked with the presentation, but we're gonna keep moving on. Hip Hop 101. So to gear BTS up for their debut in 2013, RM, Suga, and J-Hope ran a sort of school of hip hop within their dormitory, teaching their fellow members who were less familiar with the genre about Drake, Nas, the Notorious Big, and Tupac Shakur. So all of those rappers. After they debuted, the group would draw inspiration from various artists and movements, never afraid to experiment with genre bending. That's what BTS is pretty much known for. Now, this non-conformity and ability to shapeshift genres that naysayers originally critiqued would ultimately lead them to cataclysmic stardom. So on the right here, which I'm also not going to play, they have We On, which is a song that the rappers also wrote, kind of saying whatever the haters say, they're here for their music, and they're not going to compromise themselves or change what it is for other people's standards. Now we're going to go into Songs for Change. Now, through these influences and inspirations they took from various artists, BTS really chose to explore the concept of creating music that highlights injustices in the world with the hope of effectively alleviating such corruption. So we're going to get into that right now. And perhaps the best way to open this exploration of BTS critiquing societal constructs is via their first couple of releases. Their very first single, No More Dream, is actually a song that implores their fans to follow their own dreams rather than to fall prey to societal expectations. Now, this is very important for the youth of South Korea, who are often compromised and forced to be in this strict study system to get into a good college, kind of throw their dreams away and not worry about that because it's the constant stress of upward social mobility and the hierarchy. Now, No is another song that was released later that year, and it bears similar sentiments. At the time, BTS themselves were just teenagers, and the members could relate to and serve as advocates for the South Korean youth against the country's extreme rigidness on education. Within this culture, BTS felt that there was little room for mistake with the pressures placed on students to enter the most prestigious universities. Therefore, these songs really serve as a social commentary on how adults leave little room for the younger generation to pursue their own individual dreams in a standardized system seeking for the conformity of thought. And that last line is actually something I pulled from Haegum, which is a song by Augusty/Suga/Min Yoongi, whatever you want to call him. And that's a fabulous song too, also critiquing just society at large. But what we're going to look at right now is No. And I'm going to break down the lyrics a little bit after we watch a part of this. So I hope you enjoy. So buckle up your seatbelts and get ready. You'll be able to see within the music video as well how they really critique the education system and just like the conformity of everyone having to be the same. So you'll notice how they're all taking like a standardized pill, which kind of is reminiscent of standardized testing. So that's RM. This one's important. In Seoul, to the sky, your parents be happy. Everybody say no. We roll, we roll, we roll. Everybody say no. I believe that's enough, but you might have noticed early on when Namjoon was rapping, there's lyrics that go in Seoul to the sky, and this lyric is actually a double entendre. So the first meaning is that parents have sky-high scholastic expectations for their children, which are almost impossible to reach unless they're metaphorically standing on the backs of their classmates in order to reach them, which we actually see in the video when Suga is rapping. He stands on the backs of BTS to kind of emphasize that statement. But the second meaning alludes to those very expectations, because SKY is actually an acronym for the top 3 most prestigious universities in Korea. We have Seoul University, Korea University, and Yonsei University. So that's a really fascinating little detail that's encapsulated within that almost simple seeming lyric. So it's a great song, great message, you know, good stuff. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, there we go. So now the next song I want to talk about is Dope. They released this song in 2015, so 2 years after the other two that we just mentioned. And on this track, the rappers of the group utilized their verses to relay pointed messages to the Korean media and to adults that belittle the younger generation's attempts to succeed in life. So there's one lyric that says, "The media and adults say we have no willpower and look at us as if we're investments." This is something that Suga says. And within this song, BTS illuminates the unfairness of berating the young generation's lack of motivation when the society they are being raised up in offers little room for social mobility. Now, as noted by Vox, BTS lyrics are socially conscious and especially attuned to describing the pressures of modern teen life in Korea. But it's interesting to see how this could really trickle into other societies and other pressures of various institutions around the world. Now, something I want to show very briefly is RM's post-chorus rap, because it sheds a lot of light on South Korean society. Yano, yano, yano. Some post said,
세대 그럼 난 6포가 좋으니까 6포 세대 언론과 어른들은 의지가 없다면 우리 쌍초식처럼 배려해 해보기도 전에 죽여 enemy 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 벌써부터 고개 숙여 받아 energy 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 저의 공이 you know you're not only
Dawn better than our days. Can I get a little bit of hope? Wake your sleeping youth and go. Okay. So, you might be wondering why he was counting and saying all those random numbers. Well, I'll explain it to you. So, he refers to the Sampo, Opo, and Yukpo generations. As noted by Tamar Herman, in Korea, Sam, O, and Yuk are the numbers 3, 5, and 6. So he is actually referring to a popular expression that references what people have to give up in the face of economic difficulties and societal ills. Those who are considered part of the Sampo generation gave up on having romantic relationships, marriage, and children. The young Opo gen isn't able to achieve the first three, along with not being able to find proper employments or own their own homes. And finally, the younger Yukpo generation encompasses forgoing those previous desires as well as giving up on general relationships and social life. So the latter is actually also a homonym for beef jerky, with RM declaring that I like beef jerky, so it's the Yukpo generation for me. So he's kind of like making light of the situation, but it's clearly a serious issue that's going on, which is why he's saying it's time to wake your sleeping youth and go, because our dawn is better than our days, and we can't let the media denounce us before we even get a chance to try and just give us our fate. We need to fight against that. So it's very good, very great message. And now Silver Spoon, in parentheses crow tit, which in Korean that's pronounced as bapse, is another really interesting track that I highly recommend listening to, because we're probably not going to be able to listen to it today given the time constraints of this presentation, but I will read a little bit about it because it is quite fascinating. So you might be wondering why this track has two different names. Well, each one actually contains common motifs that are repeated throughout BTS's catalog, and that also reference specific South Korean societal concepts. The first alludes to a metaphor popular in Korea, as well as the West, about individuals born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Now, the idea is that people are born with varying spoon values, from gold to dirt, and it references both their socioeconomic status as well as their unstable generational inheritance from predecessors. Now, the second title is Bapse in Korean, meaning crow tit or try hard. Here, BTS play with that Korean idiom. If a crow tit or a parrotbill tries to follow a stork, it'll split its legs. Now, this saying urges the lower class to stay in their lane rather than to try to reach unattainable heights. Now, BTS in this song call out the injustices of the system and implore the younger generation to embrace their underdog situation, to work diligently, and to prevail against the biases of others. So, I want to talk about the impact of this song because it's quite significant that it even trickled into American society. Now, BTS's critique of the socioeconomic disparities in South Korean society actually struck a chord among Harvard law students. In fact, they used this very song to form the crux of their conclusive argument at the end of a paper discussing geofence warrants and the Fourth Amendment. Now, the students argue that the court dawdles on serious concerns about declaring such warrants as unconstitutional. To back their stance, the students call upon BTS's Silver Spoon that society often refuses to change and even perpetuates inherently unbalanced social structures, and yet blames the disadvantaged for not being able to keep up. So it's a very important song, important message that struck a chord in the hearts of different Harvard students. And finally, Am I Wrong, which actually also samples another song, which I will put right here, but this is yet another song created to address the underlying issues in South Korean society. Here the group reintroduces the persistent stork versus crow tit battle, and it includes a new metaphor, comparing citizens to dogs and pigs. Now, this is not a random metaphor, considering the song was released shortly after a Ministry of Education official had reportedly said that South Korea needs a caste system and describes civilians as dogs and pigs, who should be treated as such. In Suga's rap, he says, "We're all dogs and pigs, and we become dogs because we're angry," subtly addressing the controversial comment and interjecting the notion that people become more animalistic when they're angered by unfair treatment. So very, very important message, and that's something that is really deeply rooted throughout BTS's songs. This is just a couple songs that I can mention relating to their socioeconomic and political lyricism. One of their major activist songs that I did not mention in this presentation that I highly recommend looking yourself is Spring Day, which is a song they created to allude to what happened in the Sewol ferry incident, which, if you don't know of what happened there, I believe there was 307 passengers that were killed and over 200 children were part of those deaths. And during this tragedy, the government kind of pushed it under the rug, and there was issues with the boat capsizing because of too much cargo, and they hadn't followed all the guidelines. So since that got swept under the rug and so many families were suffering because of the tragedy and what they had to endure with losing their children, as well as survivors having this massive guilt and struggling to move forward, BTS created this song Spring Day and this music video right connected to it that really showcased the idea of you have to wait a little longer for spring to come. No winter, no darkness is eternal. That spring day will come. Kind of just offering this solace, and that the people who died would want you to keep moving forward and to remember them beautifully in your memory, but not to let that keep you in the darkness for all of time. It's more important for you to continue to move forward as the cherry blossoms move forward and fall from the tree. So beautiful, beautiful song. And the last thing I would like to mention is, because of their incredible abilities with technology, they started out with literally just a Twitter account, a blog, and a dream. And through that, in 2010, of just starting to work with their little Twitter account and their blog, BTS kind of created this huge social media content empire. And all of the content that they've created really put them on the map. They've contributed $4.65 billion to South Korea's GDP alone. And that was all through their creations, through their YouTube channel, through the videos that they self-produced because they didn't have enough money early on to be on promotional shows in Korea, and through this kind of dynamic digital content empire and active participation of engaging with their fans and showing this raw side to them that most polished idols at the time were not showing. They created this legacy, and it's continued to grow from there. So through that, through what they've done, it's landed them at the United Nations General Assembly, performing in the UN, dancing and spreading the message of we don't need permission to dance after the pandemic, of that freedom, that sense of it's okay now to go outside and to be with your loved ones. Here I have some old archive footage of what they would upload to their blogs when they were young, and just kind of showing how raw it was and how it would be very much unscripted, just from what they were going through. They would just document as they were moving through their life and producing and existing. So another thing I forgot to mention that I will mention very briefly right now is the influences Suga experienced as a rapper and producer, because he had early musical inspirations all the way from Korean hip-hop group Epic High to Japanese composer Ryuichi Sakamoto and to American rappers such as Eminem and Tupac. He actually credits Epic High for his decision to become a rapper, and he began composing music at 12 years old by listening to and sampling Sakamoto's music. By 13, Yoongi was dabbling with MIDI on his computer and started working, more like interning though, because there wasn't any pay, at a production studio in Daegu when he was just 17 years old. Now, it was when he was working in this studio that he made beats, sold them, and naturally honed his rapping skills. To this day, Yoongi still experiments with MIDI software to play and record electronic instruments for both BTS work and for his solo endeavors. So in class, we experimented with a digital audio workstation ourselves, and he is no stranger to that kind of atmosphere. None of the members really are at this point. Each of them have their own studios. They work with DAWs, they work with MIDI, and here's actually a video of Suga reviewing a drum machine and sampler, a MIDI processor, early on. And this was literally in 2013. He uploaded this to YouTube, and he just kind of played around with different samples and beats, which he ended up using some of these beats about 7 years later on BTS's pre-pandemic anthem, titled On that they actually performed in Grand Central Station. So I'm not going to play this for time's sake, but you could see like the software and what he was working with. And also, I realized I was saying Min Yoongi as I was reading through. In case you couldn't remember, that is his birth name and Suga is his stage name. So all of BTS have had lots of different influences. They've really been very expressive with their creativity, and they've created so much. It's really incredible, and I highly recommend, if anything, looking at like the scope of their creation and just recognizing how diversified each of the members' stuff is. It's really remarkable. And yeah, that's it. That's what I have to say. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and thank you for being here. Bye.